All right, kiddos. It's another day. It's another week. It's another Wednesday. And here we are with another episode. 87? Question mark. Possibility. Don't know. Of Camera and Flask. And I'm here with my two very good friends from two very different parts of the world. Mr. Caleb Pike, a.k.a. the Golden Boy. And from the Czech Republic, pretending that he's from Middle Europe, but actually from the Lake District, it's Mr. Ben Barden. How are you, gentlemen? And happy Wednesday.
Good.
Happy
How
Wednesday.
Are you?
That's all I got, so it's all downhill from here.
Fine.
Yeah, doing well, surviving. Just tired of everything, like everybody else. So,
Yeah.
nothing new there, but it's another week, and keeping all the sticks on the ice.
You got to do that. You don't want the sticks to be anywhere but the ice. That'll be a problem. You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Yeah.
And they're trickling in. We're up to 7. We've got Oliver. We've got G Wiz. We've got Mike. We've got Robert. We've got Small Brown Fox. We've got Pat. We've got a bunch of people in here. And they'll let them come into the chat and populate and become a part of this party that we have every week. Ben Barden, how are you?
All right. Yeah. Just a bit the same as you, Caleb. Yeah, it's a little sick of everything. Just been rushing to finish this 10-part travel and cooking show that I've been working on since, I don't know, like mid-July, I guess. We've had so many breaks from sort of COVID scares and people having to be quarantined and all this stuff. We finally wrapped today at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And new restrictions that were announced today essentially lock down the country from 6 a.m. tomorrow. In the last 3 days, we've been on like a 3-day road trip around the country filming these last 2 episodes. So kind of big stress all over. Still a lot of posts to do on it, but yeah, manic. And again, just a bit done with it all. But what can you do? It's here. We got to live with it.
Well, I know what we can do. We can all have a drink. So speaking of that,
especially you.
Let's your
big gift like that.
pre-lockdown part 2 lockdown drink. What's it going to be today?
Yeah.
Tell us what you got for us.
I don't think I'm going to enjoy this because it's not my kind of thing. But yesterday we were filming in a little family chocolate place in Moravia, which is this really nice part of the east of the country here and to the south, to where all the vineyards are. So this place was in a monk's vineyards. It was amazing. This family firm, we got there at 8:30 in the morning, and the father of the owner of this thing is coming out with like his own homemade schnapps, like Slivovica and Marunkovica and all this stuff, and forcing us all to be drinking shots before we can start filming anything. One of the products that they make is a stout with their chocolate. Now, I'm not a big fan of really dark. I love Guinness, but I'm generally not a big fan of dark. Will that come on focus? Has that got it?
We're there. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. So this is it's called, I don't know what it's called. It's called Choco Cow Stout. So I don't like stuff being messed with and things like chocolate being put into beer and stuff. I find it like a bit, oh shit, it's going everywhere. Sorry, I was supposed to be keeping it clean. Maybe, yeah. I'm going to let that settle a little bit. It's kind of lively.
Go get somebody to clean it up. Yeah, there it is. You go handle that. There we go.
I'll be back.
And look, I got a safety. That's what we do.
Oh,
we can go for a 2 up here.
Look
Thank
at
you.
Couple of bald guys.
Couple of bald guys.
I gotta close a heat vent in here.
What?
It is.
Wait, it's hot or cold?
Warm up in here. Having a hot flash. Warm.
Come on, Camille coming in. Wait, hold on. Look at this. Oh, for
snap.
the booze. Perfect. Oh, dip. Okay. Good. All right. Looks like Sky's had a long day. Or a low day. Or a long, low day. I think it would be both. What are you drinking, Caleb? Tell us. Your mic just went functified on us.
Sorry
about
about
that.
that.
Quiet.
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, there we go. Oh, totally. What you got?
Okay. Woodford
I'm back, by the way.
Reserve, and we're rocking the whatchamacallit, rye. Boom.
Do it.
Clearly, I've enjoyed this one, but
And why shouldn't you?
I opened it. I
There we
opened it
go.
on the show, so it was new at one point. So that's gonna be a nice little sippy sip this evening. How about you, Jim?
We just got a comment about our before and after for our 2-shot. And what else did somebody say? I was a little hot. So thank you for that, even though I know that's not what you meant. Coming in with the 12-year. There we go. And had this before, and it's very nice. And let's just start drinking. Let's stop talking. Everybody can see it on the screen. And let's do a little cheers to everybody in the chat.
Cheers.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, folks.
Thank you. Let's do it. It has begun.
Whoop.
What?
That is as predicted. Not my cup of tea. Their chocolate's amazing though. I just don't think we should put it in the beer.
Well, here's the thing. I got the two up. So if you need to run and get something to redeem this hour, go for it.
There is no other booze in this house, I don't think.
Oh no, you didn't.
Wait a minute. You're about to go into a lockdown?
Oh no. Food shops are still open. You can still get groceries, but like everything else is shut.
Okay. Got it.
All right.
I agree though. Chocolate, coffee, it's very rare. If I ever do, it's usually in a stout. Once every 5 years, I have like the Sam Adams chocolate around Christmas, maybe.
I'll do like a coffee.
Yeah.
What? At Christmas? Yeah. I'll do like a coffee nitro stout in like the morning. Like really cold on tap would be fine. And that's kind of fun. You get a little buzz and you're having some, stout with a little bit of coffee in it. That's not a problem for me.
That's why Bloody Marys exist for me, with bacon.
Oh, see, I hate Bloody Marys, but I would put a little Irish. I put like a Powers or something into that coffee stout to just kick it up another notch. Wouldn't be so bad.
Oh snap!
I'd be okay with that. Yeah, let's do it.
Nice.
What are people in the chat? Sam Adams Oktoberfest here. What are other people having here in the? I'm not even gonna. There's certain things I'm gonna ignore in the chat. We are not starting a show that way, and I will tell you, quite honestly, I still have not visited that dark place that people want me to go to. Paper plane, whatever that means, Wingspan. I'll take it. That's not a bad. Yeah, okay, I'll take that name.
Wingspan paper plane. I'm seeing a theme here.
I think so. Okay, good. Well, tell us what you're drinking. And we are kind of continuing without the naughty bits that you guys got into last time. Our conversation in the chat where you get to ask questions and we talk. Watch yourself, Ben. Look at that. Whenever he bites the lower lip, then there's bad thoughts going on inside of that head. Okay.
I was just going to ask. Did YouTube write to you after last week?
I don't even know. No. Roz is still grooving on the coffee. Old Tub Bourbon, very nice. Corona Extra 4.5. We got a Black Box Malbec. Patron, XO Cafe, Bourbon, Aperol. Oh, too many things. Wow, you got mixed drinks going on over there.
Aperol,
Wingspan.
that sounds like a drug.
It's not. Well, it's kind of a...
It does sound like
yeah. Okay. Deep breath. It's been one of those. Okay. So first of all, any news on the equipment front this week before we jump into the chat and questions that start to come up? Have we so DJI released like a follow-up to the little pocket gimbal, which did they used to call it the Osmo? It's like now they're calling it the DJI Pocket 2.
Osmo Pocket. Right.
Osmo Pocket 2.
Osmo Pocket 2.
Okay.
But I didn't see the spec. I have the Osmo Pocket and I use it a lot for certain types of jobs. It's for doing time lapses, motion time lapses. If you need to leave it somewhere like on an oil rig, for example, for a couple of hours, it's fantastic. It's great for that. And they just come out completely done. You don't need to take any anti-flicker on it. Its exposure ramping's really nice. And for something that's like this big and can run on its own for 2 hours on its own battery, or you can just put a USB power bank in it.
Wild.
So I've used that a lot. So I'm kind of in, but the video quality You know, I prefer it to a GoPro if you're needing an action cam, but it's still bobbins. So I'm intrigued to see what the new one is. Have you seen what the new specs are? Like what's
Well, it's
improved,
larger sensor, so improved
Ooh, okay.
low light, wider field of view. So for people who want to use it for their vlogging, yeah, but for people who want to do that, it's got a very upgraded audio capabilities, including a module that's kind of like that funky mic that it's kind of like a wireless Go that you can clip on and it will be used as a mic, but then the audio capabilities are apparently considerably better on it because they were pretty horrible on the original. Probably great for shooting stuff for OnlyFans, I would think, whatever that is. I don't know.
Why'd you just do that?
I just did it for fun. What about you, Caleb? How do you when you saw the specs? Was it? I mean, is there any place for a camera like that for the content you create, or not?
For me, I thought about when the first one was announced. I remember being like, "Oh, that could be interesting," but I have found that can be interesting. Usually, for me, means nope. So I didn't end up buying one, and it's in the category of stuff I just don't talk about on the channel because you got to stop somewhere, and I'm just really not interested in gimbals and stuff. Small, tiny baby sensors. So that drones and all that, I just don't do anything with. So pretty much all that DJI stuff, while cool, is just not for me.
I have to say, I wouldn't have bought it, I don't think, had it not been for a specific application. And essentially, I put it into the client going, like, this would be a cool thing. We could put it, there's no health and safety issues. Everyone's going to sign, because every single thing you do on one of those rigs, you've got to get signed off. So like, that was why I bought it. Client paid for it. I've kept it. And yeah, it gets an airing once in a while for other things as well, but it's... Yeah, it doesn't play nice with anything else. It doesn't cut with any other camera particularly. It's just so video.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I have a job that I do sometimes where we shoot products, and it's combinations of stills and video. And I shoot a lot of stuff on the XT series for that, and a lot of gimbal stuff. I could see the advantage of sometimes taking that out because we can mix footage for that. And it just might be, if I'm just using one camera for stills and I want to get a little gimbal shot, it might be interesting. But I still think that all of those smaller sensors require more than ideal conditions to get the footage that you really want. It is pretty amazing with smartphones and also these smaller cameras how sometimes the image that's captured, let's just be honest, is better than the starting image we get with a lot of the more expensive cameras. And you're like, how does that work? You know, you take a picture with an iPhone or, you know, a Samsung phone, and you're like, I can't take a picture that good until I bring it into my, you know, into Lightroom or, you know, Capture One or whatever you're going to do, and you start to muck around with it. So the AI, if you want to call it that, in these cameras is pretty phenomenal. They obviously have a huge database of sort of analyzing shooting conditions and giving you the best that they can. But as soon as the conditions start to break down and they're less than ideal, a lot of that, of course, has to do with low light, then things start to go south. But we're seeing even with the iPhone and these newer smartphones that the low light capabilities and algorithms and AI that they have are getting pretty dang good. What do you gentlemen think about that? What evolution, like we've got new iPhones that were also, I think, announced since we last spoke, or maybe just before last week. Any thoughts on that?
Just before, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's clearly it's the deficiencies with the sensors that are getting sort of with the sensors with the lenses of everything at that size, which are then making things kind of all right. I find most of that, like you say, you can easily. You're just muting your dog. Well done. Not quite in time. The deficiencies are made up with the AI, but it still leaves an image that when you really start getting into the detail of it is still, you know, it's at some point it breaks down a little bit, but it's definitely improving all the time. It's interesting. I'm very keen to see how particularly these small form factor cameras. I mean, I'm using phones for certain types of jobs, or just being able to produce content when you're out and about, and particularly for things like behind the scenes stuff. Because I have my phone just does such awful video on it that I would love to be able to just shoot little behind the scenes things for my own marketing. But I start with it. I do a little bit. I get it in. I hate the footage, and then I go, no, I'm not putting that out because people think that's what they're going to get if they commission me, and that's shit. And I mean, that's just my general overly paranoid attitude towards it. What do you think,
Caleb?
Seeing as Jem's gone off to do something with his dog.
No, I didn't go. I didn't go anywhere. Hold on. I'm coming back. Forget this. I think it's calmed down.
He's trying to get too fancy with
behave yourself, Tommy. Stop it. No, I should have had it set up in time. I should have done our 2-ups across the boards, but you know.
So I think going back to the Osmo, one thing they kind of missed that could have been a great opportunity would have been to either or given us a clean HDMI out for connecting as a webcam, or a little USB directly into the computer. With everything going on, that could have been
it doesn't do that.
No, from what I saw, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. But can you imagine if you could just USB-C directly into your MacBook, put it on a little tripod, it follows you the new version. You could have
that's what I'm thinking. That's kind of huge.
Yeah. That could be pretty sweet.
That could be pretty
get on it, DJ.
Yeah, come on. And because you just put that up on a little tripod and it follows you around, that's a great thing when you want to do Zoom education, I guess, would be one way to put it. All right, I'm going to jump into the chat here before it gets lost in the mix. Camille says, what do you recommend for recording sound on the go for the A7S III? Are we going to go with the Mix Pre 3.2 6/10? Well, probably the 3, in my opinion. Or the Sony XLR K3M, which is attaching to the hot shoe of the camera, if people don't know that. And it's allowing you to plug in XLR inputs and feed digitally that signal down into the camera body directly. So I'm going to start with Caleb. Thoughts on that for the A7S III?
I mean, if you're not trying to run around with a whole handheld setup, I think the Mix Pre 3 all day. That's the only thing I use for audio anymore. Just because it's so nice to use and it sounds great. But, you know, the XLR is handy. I would say that Gerald and Dunn and several other people, he recently did a video because other people found, or he found with them, that unless you're doing the 16-bit, the other settings with that, the 24-bit, you can't really use them without a bunch of work.
Interesting.
So there's some
you mean if you're going direct to camera? If you're going direct
Correct.
to camera.
If you're recording 24-bit audio using that device connected to the camera, there's more work to get your actual file. You'll have no sound unless you go through kind of a weird conversion process, almost like an audio transcoding, using, you know, FFmpeg and some other stuff that I haven't dealt with since I was troubleshooting codecs in like the early 2000s. So that's probably what I would do.
Okay. How about you?
I go the other way, I think. I think it's a slight mismatch with that. Well, not necessarily a mismatch, but if you're shooting out a video with a form factor of that camera, you want to be keeping things very compact, light, sort of stable, and be able to go directly into the camera in a Sony architecture. Everything's in the same space. I would be more confident and feeling like the kind of stuff that I would use a camera like that for would be a better bet. Audio quality for sure with the Mix Pre 3, but I think for convenience, and would my clients notice the difference between those two things? Absolutely not. I would go with the other. I think for the kind of stuff I would use it for.
Yeah,
interesting.
And 16-bit is more than enough. More than enough. You don't need to get into 24-bit audio until you're dealing with, you know, music. But for like spoken word or dialogue, totally fine. Oh yeah. And really, if you couple that with float and being able to, you know, to have that option, actually float does push you to 24, doesn't it? Automatically, or doesn't it? Or can you do 16-bit float? Yeah, I'm waiting. The whole point is 32-bit, right?
That's okay. You're going uptown. You're going up the elevator.
Well, isn't
the 32nd floor?
Isn't it 32-bit?
Yes, it is. It's 32. Well,
right?
it is for images. I don't know if it is for audio. Maybe it is for.
Well, that's what we're talking about, right?
As well. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know. I know it is for. I know it is for
32-bit.
video. Okay, 32-bit float. Flat is float. How much you been drinking, Sky? Float is 32. Yes. Okay. Good. Yeah. Okay, so that's good. I think that for me, if it's just straight dialogue and I can control, the signal that's coming in, that I would go with the K3M, just because I think it's a better fit for the form factor that you're talking about. But we talk about the all-arounder. I mean, I have a mixed I have a 6.2, and I would say that if you don't have that in your kit and you're in lots of different situations, it's a good investment. A 3 at least. For me, actually, the 3 would have been fine, but they didn't have it, so that I went with the 6. And I found that when I do remote production now, and I'm feeding in for things, and I'm just bringing in audio sources, it's really the best way to sort of get your stuff into wherever you're going, whether it's a camera or to a live stream or whatever you're going to do. David, welcome from the set. Glad you stopped by. I know you had quarantined for that, so it means you're probably not drinking right now. 32-bit float, Tommy says, doesn't work great. What are you making comments about audio, Mr. Lighting Guy? I'm just messing with you. 32-bit float audio doesn't work great on live stream.
Buy mics.
Don't buy lights, buy lights. Yeah, that should be a bumper sticker.
I said buy mics.
No, I said that. I said mics. I'm backing you up.
I
did.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. Because hardware limiters are disabled and it's easy to clip. Interesting. Oh, for live streams. That makes sense. Yeah. Cool.
But if you're trying to use 32, never mind.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh boy.
Love it.
He said blasphemy. Cool. So I saw some sort of comment up here that I thought was, somebody wants to know about the C50 specs that have started leaking out. I think for me this goes back to that question we had when the C70 was announced. If they announced and they released a lower end camera, would I be interested? And I personally said no, because I think that we've kind of got this great balance of specs in that C70, and if we start to lose things, like as soon as it goes to like the new Fuji camera that they just announced, the small mirrorless, it's an 8-bit camera, so we lost that 10-bit codec, and I'm like, forget it, it's not happening. So I don't know, we'll see.
If they I don't know what the rumors are, but it'd be awesome if they did. I don't know what sensor size is going to be, but yeah, I don't know. Never mind. For a second, I forgot that the C70 is APS-C. I was going to say if the C50 could be, an R6 that doesn't overheat for $3,500.
No,
with kind of a C70 look, but it's going to be APS-C, so or smaller. So never mind.
Yeah.
In other words.
C90 is going to be the camera or whatever they call it that would be the full frame version, I think.
But now you're talking like C50 is supposed to be the cheapo, right?
So C50 will be Super 35/APS-C, if anything. That's a weird place for them to be in the market, because you've got an R5, which will probably sit in a very similar price point. Granted, it's not a video camera per se; it's a hybrid style camera, but that's full frame. That's I don't know. I don't know if they need a C50 at the moment. What they probably need is they probably need to just evolve up to full frame RF mount and go to the 90 or whatever it's going to be called. That's what I think, But I think we're looking at a while for there. I think the C70 is just going to hang for a while as their RF mount start to the industry. The C300 Mark III, C500 Mark II are very new cameras for them in the market. And, I don't see them doing anything until at least 2021, late spring, early fall, autumn, before they do that. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah. Same, really. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be, because they've just gone mad the last 2 months, 3 months, however long it's been. I think
Yeah.
Is there a time frame on the 50, or is this all just still?
I don't know.
Wild rumor and conjecture at the moment. We've no idea. I don't know either. But just on this subject, quickly, I'm going to pick up on a question from Bryce Didden, who says, Ben, if someone gave you $5,500 for a new camera, are you buying the C70 or another C200? 70. Straight, yeah, no question right now. I never use the RAW on it unless I'm just playing with something and experimenting with stuff. I never use it for client work, and the 10-bit would be great to have. Well, and all sorts of other stuff in that camera that would be a more usable, generally day-to-day for what I do, other than the small XLRs and having to use an adapter, which I'd be slightly nervous about because having to have loads of adapters because they'll break. I have the Blackmagic ones that I had for the video assist 4K, and I ideally not want to be using those, but for in every other aspect, for me that would suit better, I think.
Caleb, let's read Tommy's comment for the FYI, and let's bring that up. Come on, let's do it.
FYI, I'm selling my Nikon Z kit, going to get both the Komodo and the A7S III, then comparing both to the new iPhone to trick people into buying lights instead of cameras. Nice, Tommy.
Into learning.
So if anyone needs a Nikon Z kit.
Yeah.
Also, let's just take a second to say, just, our little yellow flag waving weekly in the wind. Our annual, Nikon's still dead and awful with their cameras. They came out with the Z6 and Z7 Mark II, and it's sad, folks. It's real sad. Anyway, I wish the best for them. I really do. Since day one, like 2010, I was always like, Nikon doesn't have a video department to cannibalize. Do something. I feel like that meme where like the stick figure is like pushing a stick into like a pile of mud, just saying do something.
Do you know?
It's like,
I just always imagine kind of Nikon, like all these other companies that have got these strong stills and video divisions, and it's all been quite dynamic in this whole thing. So for the last 10 years, they've all been going, right, this would be cool if we did this, and we are at the cutting edge of everything, and this codec's coming out, we can use 10. All this stuff's going on. And in Nikon, you just imagine this group of really old men sitting around this like dusty old bookshelves and going like, what are we going to do? What, this video stuff? How does that work? People are doing that. People said we should do something with that. What is it? Can we get someone? That's, yeah. It just feels a little like that. It's all sort of very much afterthoughty.
Like seeing a flagship camera and people in the company is saying like, ooh, video is really good on this. It's our best video camera. And you see 4K 30 in 2020. It's just like, come on, guys.
Yes, I know. Let's not even go there. Camille, I would agree with you, by the way. The MixPre 6.2 is not really much larger at all than the MixPre 3.2. So, if the extra little bump in price is not too much of a hit for you when you're making the investment and you're definitely going for one of those, I might actually go for the 6 as well, for that extra input. That could come in handy with all of this multicam remote production stuff that's happening.
But Small Brown Fox says, I like Nikon, Caleb. Oh, yeah.
But Small Brown Fox would say, I would like Nikon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He would. Yeah.
Z6 when it came out, at that second in time, wasn't bad. At that moment in time, when there was a hope that there would be RAW around the horizon.
That slice, that sliver, that tiny
sliver
of time.
I remember that in AB whenever that was announced.
When your eye opens in the morning, you just get a little bit of red blur. That moment, they were there.
Yes.
But Bryce has. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that is the most frustrating thing with this Small Brown Fox saying their glass is the best out there. That whole thing is that there's so much Nikon glass because they never changed the mount when they went into the AF systems. So everything's backwards compatible way back when, which is why it's so frustrating that they haven't come up with anything that's worthy yet.
Their glass is good, but their mount, the Z mount, which obviously their new one doesn't matter. They fixed it, but you couldn't adapt anything to Nikon, which is sad. But they solved that, obviously.
Yep. Cheers, Grip Tips. Good to have you.
Oh, dude.
You were gonna.
What's going on, man?
Yeah, we like your
Everyone check out his
content.
channel. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Come, nice for hanging. And we know secretly, by the way, Tommy, that you won a couple of cameras, which is the real reason that you're doing this. But it's okay, because you know how we get that amazing selective focus out of an iPhone. We don't, unless we're taking stills. Just saying. No, I'm just kidding. Grip tips. You were going to read something from Bryce, weren't you?
Yeah. I just noticed he said, am I the only one who thinks it's kind of a bummer that so many cameras are moving to full frame when so many budget Super 35 zooms are out there now? ? And I think it's kind of an interesting. I really hope there's a trend toward, as we move to full frame, Super 35 crop modes that are really good, because there's so much glass, and I feel on the high end, I would hope that would happen because, you know, there's a lot of good, you know, Super 35 or you know, closer to that APS-C crop, you know. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is I hope that's a thing. Sure. And as we get higher resolution, I think it's easier to do. It's just the processors have to be good enough to be able to do that at a good quality. What do you guys think?
Yeah, we've talked about this in the past. I mean, I think that we see a trend towards, if you're going to have a full frame camera, you know, put a Super 35 / APS-C mode into the camera, a true one in there. And that gives us the flexibility. There is a distinct advantage to full frame to me, that when I'm in a smaller space and I put a lens on, I can get that field of view that I'm looking for. To me, that's the only real advantage. I mean, if you have complete control over where you can be and what your space is, then I'm not going to say that sensor size doesn't matter, but it becomes much less of an issue. I still love that sensor size, and I think, you know, to me, it works well. I feel in a lot of ways, because I've been shooting with that sensor size, APS-C / Super 35, that I feel like, you know, if I'm picking a lens, I have a very clear idea of what focal length I'm picking in order to get that field of view and what I'm going to get out of that. So I'm very comfortable with it, but I'm pretty comfortable with full frame as well. And I just like to see every camera manufacturer just say, even if we're making a mirrorless camera and it's got a full frame sensor, let's put that Super 35 and that 16 millimeter option inside of the camera. And then it just opens up so many possibilities for all of us in terms of what glass we can put on those cameras.
I would say that I agree. And I think the sweet spot with that is what the C70's done with having the speed booster in. If that works really well and there's no weirdness with it and everything, that's the best of all worlds. Because in a way, you're then getting the smaller sensor and the clear advantages to that in terms of the rolling shutter and all the rest of it that you end up with full frame that's much harder and the processing that's needed. But you then have particularly for me, it's wide lenses that I really miss when I'm shooting in on those smaller sensors, and being able to stick a 16mm lens on it, looking like I'm used to, because obviously my background's still photography, so I still very much think focal lengths in terms of a full frame image. So using the speed boosters, which I used a lot on the Sony systems on the older A7 cameras, with Canon glass, which, you know, never was a particularly happy marriage. I think there were always certain issues with it. The AF didn't work properly. I ended up with weird optical stuff going on, particularly in the corners of wide lenses with those. So if it's a new one from Canon, I'm really interested to see how it goes, because, as I say, to me, that is the best of all worlds.
Yeah. I have hopes that it'll be really interesting, because the C70 was pretty interesting. It's a really unique, like, carving through their various and dodging other cameras. So I'm very curious to see what's up with that. You know, I'm hoping that they'll kind of, you know, I'm sure they're mindful of all the content creators out there who are looking for something better than an R6. And we'll see.
I mean, I think,
by the way, if anyone wants to buy an R6, DM me. Let's get something figured out there.
You want to swap it for C200? Not a C200 for a FS700.
100%.
100%. What that was the wrong question.
That was the wrong thing. I'm thinking of all the cameras that I've got to sell right now, and it was the FS700. Seeing as okay.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting perspective that you have, Ben, about going with Super 35 or APS-C and then having the speed booster, because there is a heat management issue with that larger sensor. There is, potentially the rolling shutter stuff. So that could be an interesting approach for everybody to at least think about, and would be really lovely if a company like Fujifilm, which is clearly on the APS-C and then medium format side, did something like that. And but I don't think we're ever going to see that from a company like them, because they have such a closed ecosystem when it comes to their glass. Yeah. It's not like they've opened it up, and that's a little unfortunate. They do have beautiful, lovely glass, but it's not. We don't have huge quantity of options when it comes to Fujifilm. So that's a little bit frustrating. Can you adapt a lot of other people's glass to that sensor? Yes, you can, but it just isn't. They don't have the same ecosystem that we're seeing with Sony, especially, and now we can see with the RF mount and some of the other companies that are out there. Yes.
Yeah, it's too bad Fuji has, leapfrog sensor sizes, because they can't really do anything with that. You can't go APS-C to medium format, which is too bad.
Jake is speaking another language. Can you jump in there, Ben? I don't know what's going on with this Nikon Nikkor AIS versus SMC. Right. Can somebody get in there and take that up? I don't know what's happening.
That's beyond my pay grade. Lenses, Ben?
Nope.
I've always been Canon, so I'm
Nikon,
always slightly confused.
Nikkor AIS. So Nikon is I think he means essentially Nikon AIS, like vintage. AIS versus the SMC Takamars. Both Japanese companies. The Takamars are older. Some of them are radioactive, all metal build. I think the Nikons are going to be sharper, cooler lenses. The Takamars are going to give you a little more of that vintage vibe. Like the older Nikon lenses are more modern than a lot of vintage. So if you're looking for that kind of highlights, blooming action, warmer image, then the Takamars are great, and they're awesome. They feel great in the hands. They're really heavy, metal lenses, but just don't drop them and then sniff them. That's bad. Or lick them. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So we have a dual gain output sensor in the C300 Mark III, which is not the same as what some of the other companies have, where you have a lower ISO and a higher ISO. It's more like a dual gain, so that you're capturing a higher dynamic range in the shadows and the highlights. But we have a comment here that says, according to CR, the C90 may have the C500 Mark II sensor. Is that a mistake, or should they now be evolving and going with a full frame dual gain output sensor, because they've now introduced that in the Super 35 market? Any thoughts? Anybody? Does that even make sense? I think it does.
Does the C70 have that dual gain action?
It does. So the C70 has the same exact sensor as the C300 Mark III.
Oh, so that's not just a full frame. What the sensor does. It's not like a processing thing.
Correct. I think it's what I think it's a. I don't know. I'm going to make it up if I say I do know. I just know it's a dual gain output. There's a white paper for that has been written by Canon. But my understanding is that what's happening is, because of the way it's reading that signal that's being captured by the sensor, it's giving you a potentially wider dynamic range, where you're basically, it's a dual gain output. Or I think that's what it stands for. And so instead of it being, for instance, let's just make up numbers, that the base ISO is 800 on a Panasonic camera, and then there's another setting where you go to 2500 or 32, and there may be ISOs that are in between, that are not as clean, but when you jump to that higher ISO, you get a cleaner image, similar to the A7S III. We know that there's some situations like that. It's not really that. It's not those two settings for these two different ISO settings. It's just that the way it's reading it out, you're getting higher dynamic range, cleaner in the shadows, better in the highlights, that kind of stuff. Here it is. Sky's saying it in one sentence while it took me an hour and a half to say it. It reads the shadows and the highlights at different gains and mixes them. I could have said that, but I'm not smart enough to say something like that.
Yes. What's interesting to me with that technology is because that's how I take, if I'm doing architectural photography on TV, that's exactly what you do with stills. You just you do a range of exposures and you blend them, and it's doing the same thing.
But this isn't like that cheesy HDR action. Remember the Reds when they were touting HDR video?
Yeah.
Interesting. Got it. C90, I haven't read anything about that, but I've kind of been off the rumor mill for a while.
Yeah. All right, so this is the chat here. 360 Grad coming in 41 minutes into the show. Kind of getting on everybody's case. I appreciate it, by the way, about the likes. I'll take it. Maybe the last part, I don't know about that, but old Gem would be in for that. I gotta be politically correct sometimes.
Off-stream Gem would be down.
Yeah, off-stream Gem would be like, yeah, I'm all for that. 360 Grad. There we go. Now good job, kids. What is this? I think the R1 will be the camera with the new sensor, full frame with global shutter.
Rabbit triples are
our
what's
feeder.
The word I'm looking for? Our rumor guy. Rumor
guy. Yeah, rumor reader. Let's get some questions in here. Let's put an @the_C47 in the chat. Let's get some tech questions in here or whatever you want. Small Brown Fox. Where will Fuji go with the H2? I have no clue.
All right, there we go. Oh, you've no clue. I saw that question. I was like, Caleb, should we just check out now? We'll go to bed and leave him to it. That was just a question that you could just riff on for hours.
It's a miracle. Jem doesn't know, and it's Fuji.
I don't, and I don't really. I know some of the things that I want Fuji to do. I want them to up their game in terms of AF. Is it bad? No, but it's not Sony or Canon at the moment, so they need to step up that AF game. I don't expect a better, I don't expect a full-frame sensor. We know that. So I'd like, what would I like? I'd like them to put ProRes RAW and Blackmagic RAW in the camera is what I'd really like. Or some sort of feature like that. I'd like them to make sure that they have a dedicated headphone jack again, which they don't have in the XT4, which is a real pain. Do you want to power the camera, or do you want to use that USB-C port to listen to your audio? I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty happy. I think the AF system has to get better on that camera. And they could... I don't know if you were thinking. I mean, Caleb, you're probably the other person here who has a pretty good handle on Fuji. If you were thinking about an evolution of not necessarily XT5, but of course new features that get added to the X series, and that's the H2, what would you be looking for in that camera?
I mean, personally, I think they should stick with the XT line is killing it. So unless they do with the XH2, it's going to be a bigger body, better shutter, better mechanics, So I would do more crazy stuff with maybe resolution and frame rates because it's larger. Maybe they can do some better heat dissipation. So maybe it's their first 6K in camera or something. There's plenty of stuff I could give them a hard time about that they just need to fix, like the BS about their autofocus being terrible unless you hit record. Solve that. You know, because how many of us start framing up a shot and kind of like pointing the camera around and like, oh, the autofocus is terrible. And then when you hit record, it's like a completely different camera. Like, Ben, can you imagine if your C200 was like a Pentax auto something for video?
Yeah.
And then suddenly when you hit record, it just becomes beautiful, you know, dual pixel again. It's so annoying.
Oh, it's insane. The confidence sort of thing with that must be terrible if you're working
whatever's
with that.
going on
you're
with
framing
that.
up a shot, or you're blocking scenes, and you're then moving people around in that, and it's not working, and you go, no, it'll be fine. As soon as I hit record, honestly, it's all good. No.
Yeah, I mean, if I was Fuji, I'd fix all that stuff. Maybe skip the H2 or do what I just said: higher frame rates, crazy heat stuff. But what I would love to see more than anything out of Fuji is either a separate line. You know how they all have the 2-letter lines of lenses? Like, what is it, Gem? WX.
Yeah.
Fuji,
WR, weather
WR,
resistant.
WC, or XC, all that stuff.
Yeah.
We need either just updated lenses or a new line dedicated to video. Take the same optics.
I totally agree.
Same optics,
1,000,000%.
new motors, and make them sexy smooth.
Yeah, because we know that they have an amazing, and they make them in X mount, but those two zoom lenses, the 18 to 55, 50 to 135, are Rockstar lenses. Those are manual. That's the secret sauce for the XT4, by the way, and the H2. And if you really want to bump those cameras up and have cinema style, then you put those lenses on there. But their zoom lenses are very steppy. I agree with you 1,000,000%. They could up their game in terms of audio and what we can do with audio with those cameras. There's definitely room for improvement in the Fuji cameras for sure. But they're doing a pretty good job, and their price point right now is pretty great if you talk about a camera body lens combination. No experience on HDMI over fiber. Gee whiz, 5150. What's my favorite light, Tommy? If I was up against a wall with a gun to my head, I'd take a Joker Bug 800 with a full kit, and I'd probably do a... and they'll look at Caleb, he's like, what? I'd probably do a Joker Bug, because I can do so much stuff with that. And I know, probably. I'd probably do that. And I might do like an old school Fresnel if I didn't have to deal with the heat issues, just because of color accuracy. But I mean, look, I love like Gemini and the newer panels from Aperture. All of those lights are great, but I would prefer to always have a hard light to start with rather than a soft light to start with.
Sure.
So
which
I know
question
that
for
sounds
you guys?
Yeah.
In regards to this, I thought that was a great question, by the way. Where's the question? I lost it. Who asked that question?
Tommy, of course. What's your favorite light?
So. Oh, Tommy asked it. Nice. Good question. Yeah. Good question, Tommy. Yeah. In regards to that, if each of you had to pick one light, and like all your lights, other lights got stolen or whatever, lost, burned to the ground, one light, and not because of price, what would it be? Jem kind of answered that. Joker.
Well, I mean, the Joker Bug's a hard one. It's just so versatile with the high ISO of the cameras we have now, and you're starting with daylight
to deal with. But
well, they have now. What I'd really like to do is I'd like to try the K5600 LEDs and see how well those are, and what they can do.
Yeah.
I look at this Orbiter light from Arri, and you said price is not a factor. That's probably the light that I want. It's all-in-one, weatherproof. It's big, but that you can just kill it with that light in so many different situations. So that comes out of the case with modifiers, and you can probably do pretty much anything you want. But I haven't had my hands on that light, so I can't say for sure. But that seems like any light that I can take out that has one plug that comes out of the light, that's the dream, Even if it's big, it's one plug that comes out of the thing. And then to separate it and control the light with this controller and what they're doing with that's pretty exciting to me, to be honest. And we know Tommy's tried out that Orbiter. So, yeah, I think that's pretty exciting. Yep. What about you guys?
I think probably the same, to be honest. But really, for me, for the most part, it's just I want as much grunt as I can get out of the smallest fixture I can get, and hard light again because it's just more flexible that I can control. I can put, yeah, it'd be very easy to do an awful lot with if you've got the grunt, which is what you were saying with the Joker. But obviously, the Joker just melts everything in it, and it's just a pain in all sorts of other ways. But I agree completely. I'm the same. Something that with just massive output in the smallest form factor possible, ideally.
And they are pretty small. I mean, if you look at a Joker Bug 400 or an 800, they're small. They have a great quality of light overall, but they are a pain in the ass for sure. 360 Grad is asking, could you please explain why you prefer to start with a hard light over a soft light? Easy. You can always make a hard light soft. You can't make a soft light hard. And so if you want to do that, there's some tweaky kind of lights that are out there to the panel that have harder LEDs, and then they kind of give active diffusion. The Rotolight Titan does that. The mix panel from Nanlite does it. Those are kind of cool, but they're still not going to give you that same single source quality that you're going to get. You can tweak lights now with these spotlights like Aperture is doing, and you can put a lens in front of it. But we've talked about this on the show. It's like a light this big becomes this big, and that really becomes a little unwieldy and unrealistic for a lot of productions. What about you, Caleb? If you're going with a light that's sort of the Swiss Army knife, what are you looking for?
Well, I was thinking about this, and the two lights that come to mind for me that are currently available is a tie between the Aperture 300X and the F7. That stinking F7 that's been on like almost every list of our challenges ever.
Yeah, it's what's lighting me right now.
Just the other day, I busted it out. So maybe next week, hopefully, I'll be coming to you on the show from a new like live streaming little baby studio. And and like the other day I was just breaking that thing out to get an idea of what I wanted to do with lighting, and the thing just kicks. It's amazing.
It really is.
If you have a lens that goes down to 1.8, oh, we lost Ben.
Oh.
If you have a camera or a lens, let's say full frame, you've got a lens that goes down to 1.8, you can do a lot of damage with that Aperture F7. It's cheap. It's just works by color, and it's still really bright. There he is. And the other is the 300X, just because of the color fidelity. If you set that lens to 5400 and a half, it's 5400 and a half. 5450, let's say, Kelvin. Yeah, it's right there. And it gives you really, really pleasing colors for an aperture light. And again, that means it's less expensive than other options. Output isn't quite there, but there's little I can't do with something like that for typical stuff. No, you're not going to do a 12 by 12, book light. The Jokers and stuff, I'm over it. I get it. It's beautiful. But the weird color temperatures with HMI mixed with the hassle of a hot light with some heavy-duty, high-powered requirement boxes, I'm over it.
Unless don't you think the excitement outlet? Yeah, don't you think the excitement of the Orbiter though is that we're going to see? I mean, the Orbiter is the. To me, that's supposed to be us. Let's see. Oh, I know why. I'll set myself up here. Let's say bye-bye and hello. Your audio went away for a second.
Oh, sorry about that. I said, here's to you, pretty gray lady.
Let's assign Ben as guest number 2 and bring him back in. I don't know what's going on. Did the curfew kick in for COVID? What's happening for the lockdown? They just keep shutting down your camera. That's amazing. The Orbiter to me is exciting because I think it sort of shows us where we're going to be going. And look, we haven't seen any other company really come out with what their next version of their Orbiter is going to be. So Aries coming out with their light. and everybody else is going to follow. I mean, we saw it with the Sky panel, and we see the evolution of what's happened with panel-based lights and how much better that's gotten. And I think that will continue to happen over time, don't you? Because, I mean, the Sky panel was the first to come out, and their technology isn't necessarily today the best technology that's in the panel-based light. It's well-tuned to their cameras and their sensors, but it's not necessarily the best panel-based LED that exists, and we all know that. And the evolution that we're seeing from Aperture and other companies means that we're going to see some really exciting stuff that's going to be more cost-effective from other companies in the future. Yes? No? Maybe?
Sure. Roz, take care if you're seeing this. He's taken out.
Yes. Okay, good. Yep.
Yeah.
Rad. It's all happening, right? It's all occurring. And somebody asked about lights. Somebody asking about
Bryce. I was going to ask about that.
Which one?
What's your favorite ways to transport C-stands, guys?
Well, besides your children
and
a Sherpa, I would say that Matthews Studio Equipment has some nice soft and hard cases that allow you to transport C-stands that are specifically for that purpose. It's hard otherwise because it's the base that's the pain in the ass for sure. So yeah,
my two favorite ways if I'm flying and I need a C-stand, that one Pelican case that's like a gun case, you can fit 1 to 2. Ben, you talked about those giant soft bag things for flying. My favorite local travel is, what's the company that makes the little cart that everyone had in like 2012 with the yellow
Rock
wheels?
and Roller? Yeah, Rock and Roller.
Yeah.
So you take a Rock and Roller cart, which folds up, fits in a tiny car. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Like I had a little Audi A4, and I was able to fit so much stuff with that cart. But for stands, what I would do is I had a Pelican case, like the chest case, really heavy duty, had all kinds of junk in there, right? Just chuck it in there. The case is going to last 100 years. It's great. And you bust out your Rock and Roller cart, you unfold it, you put that Pelican case on it, and then you put your C-stands, you stick them through the cart, resting on that case.
Yes.
With the feet dangling off the back. And I could fit 4 to 6 C-stands on top of the
because the feet are facing down. Yeah, the feet.
Because if you look up, if you just Google right now, rocket roller case, you'll see the handles are looped. So if you put a Pelican case there, you can stick the stand through the case. And I rocked that setup when I was hustling doing corporate video and interviews and stuff. That was my jam forever. And it was awesome. Loved it.
Still got one of those Rock and Rollers. They do the job.
But you can put an ungodly amount of weight on those poor things. The amount of abuse mine took.
For the money, they're great. The shelves that they sell with it don't always fit perfectly, I can tell you from experience. But it's good. We are 3:58 p.m. Pacific time. Pitter patter of children probably happening above Caleb's head. And Ben, you're heading close to 1 a.m. I think over there. And quite honestly, the beer was crap, so you haven't had much to drink. So next week, can we resolve that? Can you make a trip to the store, mask it up, do your thing, and let's have a proper drink next week?
For sure.
I think we continue this trend and we put Ben into the hot seat next week. I love just interacting with the chat. We'll get some other interesting things going, but I think next week we're going to keep your questions. Coming in with Australian.
Ready for it? Gee whiz.
Yes.
With that donation.
There it is. Let's put it right over. There it is. Perfect. Beautiful. Happy to answer the questions and happy to have everybody here. And Scott, welcome. I think it's a replay for you. But the beginning of the show has a lot of energy. I don't know about the end. Don't forget to check out your favorite OnlyFans channel. Go ahead, Ben. What do you want to leave with?
When are your clocks changing?
No, after Halloween, sometime in early November, I believe it is.
So not next week.
We'll text you. We'll text you.
Changed this week. So
snap.
for those of us in Europe, we're going to be out of sync next week. Yeah.
Do you go forward or backward? Like when will you be on the show? 11 or 1?
So we'll be coming. Oh God, the clocks go back. So we'll be.
You gain or lose an hour.
Yeah, it's an hour earlier for me. I guess it will be 11 p.m. in the UK.
I was gonna say 1 a.m. Man,
I think that's right.
I love you guys, but I'd be like, yep, that's the end of me.
Yeah. No,
maybe
I'm pretty sure
we will. Yeah.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay. Well, I will tell you one thing. Next week, it will still be 3 p.m. Pacific, and it will still be 6 p.m. Eastern. So as long as everybody pays attention to what that is, I'm not putting in the other. I'm just saying Pacific and Eastern. There's no S in there. I'm just always going to say that. I'm sticking to my guns. What is that? Oh, I'm not even going to go there. It gets messy, pun intended, at the end of the show. Gentlemen, love you guys, and all the best. Take care.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody. See ya.
See you next week. Bye.